We now come to the urgent question. Next urgent question, Seamus Logan.
To ask the Secretary of State to make a statement on the Coastal Community Growth Fund.
Mr. Well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We are working closely with our fishing and seafood sectors to ensure that they are vibrant, profitable and sustainable alongside a healthy and productive marine environment. That is why on the 19th of May, this government announced the Fishing and Coastal Growth Fund, a £360 million investment that would support the next generation of fishers and breathe new life into our coastal communities. This fund recognises the vital contribution that fishing and coastal communities make to our economy, local communities and national heritage. Designing this fund with stakeholders is paramount to its success. We want to work with industry and communities to get their views on how to maximise value and target investment for maximum local impact. This engagement is just beginning. We will be considering investment in such things as new tech and equipment to modernise the fleets, training and skills to back the next generation, and to promote and support the seafood sector to export across the world. Since the fund was announced, this government has heard calls from a wide range of stakeholders to learn from previous fisheries funding schemes, and instead of funding being held at a UK-wide level, that the funding be devolved. That is why on the 20th of October, the government confirmed that the Fishing and Coastal Growth Fund would be devolved, providing devolved governments with full discretion over how to allocate funding and reaffirming this government's commitment to devolution. This approach enables each devolved government to design and deliver support that responds to the specific needs of their fishing and coastal communities, ensuring investment is targeted towards regional needs, national views, and best supports their coastal towns and villages. It ensures that decisions are taken closer to the communities they serve, so the sector can thrive for generations to come. While this government respects the devolution settlement, I would like to encourage collaboration across all governments to maximise the fund's impact, as each government will have its own insights into how the funding can be used and will learn lessons over the fund's lifetime.
Seamus Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for her response. I would be failing in my duty to constituents, indeed to people across Scotland, if I did not reflect the anger, the dismay and the sense of betrayal that has greeted this set of allocations from the Coastal Growth Fund. On March the 5th this year, ahead of the much-vaunted EU reset deal with the UK, the Prime Minister told me from the dispatch box, and I quote, "I recognise the huge and historic importance of the fishing industry in his constituency and others, and I am determined to make the sector more secure, sustainable and economically successful. But we were once again used as a bargaining chip when EU access to Scottish waters was extended for another 12 years, way beyond what the EU negotiating team had hoped for. Boris Johnson used the fishing industry as poster boys in his reckless Brexit campaign and then betrayed them afterwards. And now this government has done exactly the same thing by reserving more than £300 million for English coastal communities over the next 12 years while handing us pocket money. Despite Scotland representing 60% of our fishing capacity, despite landing almost 50% of the catch in these islands, despite more than 75% of all species caught landed by Scottish vessels, we are offered a mere 7.78% of the fund. But, Mr. Speaker, this question has been co-signed by colleagues from across the House who represent coastal communities across Scotland, in Orkney, in Shetland, the Outer Hebrides, and indeed my Welsh College, who are equally dismayed at the crumbs they are offered. I recognise this Minister and her team may need time to get to grips with their brief, but her predecessor said he intended to engage fully with devolved governments, but the Scottish Government have been ignored again. I urge the Minister to look at this decision. There is time before next March to take a fresh look at these allocations and recognise the crucial role that the fishing industry plays in our beautiful coastal communities around our massive coastline and in our island communities across Scotland. If the Minister is in any doubt about the strength of anger about this matter and why it is so crucial, I repeat the offer I made to her personally yesterday. Please come and see for yourself in my constituency. Thank you.
Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I was looking at some of the history of such seafood support funds in the past, and The last one was a UK seafood fund, which was reserved by the government, then government nationally, to be used in a strategic way. And there were many, many vocal complaints that that fund should have been devolved. We've now devolved a fund using the way that devolutions of funds always happens, using the Barnett formula, Mr. Speaker, which gives a 20% per head uplift to devolved governments for all other spending. I would also note that the devolution settlements in CSR 2025 give the Scottish Government another £8.5 billion that they can choose to spend in any other way. And it's always open to them, Mr. Speaker, to decide to support what is a very, very important industrial sector for them with some of the money that they've been devolved using other parts of CSR devolution settlement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for coming to the dispatch box and for the member for Aberdeenshire North and Moor East for raising this important issue. I think there is a question of fairness of geographical distribution, and I think the Minister should consider that, and I hope the funding will be reviewed in due course. But there's another aspect to fairness too, and that's fairness across the sector. I want the funding to be aimed at new entrants, to fishing communities that face big challenges for depopulation, for crewing and for keeping themselves going. For example, by allocating and buying quota so that local authorities can distribute them to new entrants, as happens to a limited degree in Orkney and in the Western Isles too. I want it to be aimed at new opportunities. An £800 tuna was landed in my constituency this summer, landed in the North Atlantic to be sold at a famous market in Tokyo. These are the kind of schemes, these are the kind of places and the kind of fishing and coastal communities that the fund should be aimed at, not just funneling it to already wealthy quota barons who dominate the industry and dominate the airwaves.
Speaker, I think my honourable friend has made some very interesting observations about creativity which may well be applied to the fund. And what we will be doing, just about to begin to do, is try to co-design the way this fund will work. It's there for the next 12 years, so that we can try to be creative. We can think about how we can support the younger generation of people who wish to go into the industry. And I think some of the suggestions he's made are intriguing, and I will certainly follow up with him and others about them.
Minister Dr. Neil Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this fund is a weak apology from a Labour government who has this year sold out the UK fishing industry. It is a mere sticking plaster, a rushed one at best, that ignores the proportion of fish caught across these isles of the UK, poorly involves the devolved administrations, and ignores evidence-based delivery and logic. This fund, Mr. Speaker, is Labour trying to buy off the UK fishing fleet due to their disastrous 12-year deal with the EU, 3 times longer than the deal Labour sought, denying Britain from setting annual fishing quotas like other independent coastal states. Fishing organisations have called that deal a horror show for fishermen. Can the Minister tell us if this money will be front-loaded and spent where it will cause the greatest benefit to support the industry and coastal communities? What input will fishing organisations and representatives have to ensure that it is spent in the right place? Now, fishing too is not just about the fish caught, but both the people and the marine wildlife involved. Can the government explain how this fund will support fishers' mental health and how it will support efforts to protect marine wildlife, such as by ending bycatch? There is also not enough detail for the industry to plan, so I ask, how will this be delivered? How is it being targeted to support the fishing industry? And how are the Labour government supporting the next generation of fishermen and women with this fund? This fund is an example of the Labour government trying to buy off the industry with a sticking plaster rather than ensuring that the best deal for the British fishing industry is the one that they negotiate with the EU.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fund is about long-term transformation and partnership, and for that reason we want to modernise the fishing sector, support coastal regeneration and build resilience across the industry, across all of the UK. And for that reason we are going to co-design the fund with both local communities and the industry itself. So I'm not able to answer in detail at this very precise moment the questions the Honourable Gentleman has asked, because we are seeking to cooperate with those who will be beneficiaries. And when we're in a position, and when I'm in a position to make further announcements, I certainly will.
Mr. Carmichael.
I welcome the Minister to her new position. I have to say, though, if ever there was an illustration of the scale of the challenge of ministers in turning around this department, this is it. Let's not forget that this fund was created because the Prime Minister went and rolled over for 12 years the catastrophically bad deal that Boris Johnson gave us for 5. And if the Minister is sincere when she says that the aim of the government is to maximise local investment, then to use the Barnett formula to distribute this is ocean-going madness. By volume and by value, Shetland alone accounts for 9% of the fish landed in this country, but Scotland as a whole will get only 8%. So when will this funding formula be reviewed, and when will we hear exactly where this money will be spent and what it will be made available for, wherever it's going to be?
Well, certainly the devolved parts of the fund, he'll have to ask the Scottish Government what they're going to do with that. And he may wish also to ask whether there's any extra money from the devolved CSR process, which gave the Scottish Government an extra £8.5 billion to spend this year.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this fund was set up to act as a sweetener to our fishing communities after they were completely sold out in the government's EU Brexit reset. 12 years of access to our seas given away in that negotiation. Scotland lands 3/4 of the tonnage of fish in the UK, and 60% of the value of UK fishing comes into Scotland. Yet of this £360 million fund, Scottish fishermen are only going to get 28 million, 7.7%. Does it really make sense to the Minister that Scotland gets 8% of a fund when they're bringing in so much of the value of fishing? And if it doesn't make sense, what is she going to do about it?
Minister.
As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Speaker, the predecessor fund, UK Seafood Fund, was complained about massively because it was ring-fenced and held at UK level. The demand then was for it to be devolved. We've devolved it, we've used the Barnett formula, and that's the way the allocations work. The Scottish Government can always spend some of the extra uplift, the largest uplift in the Scottish devolution settlement since devolution itself, on supporting the fishing industry should it wish to do so.
Wendy Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The East Neuk fishing fleet in my constituency may not be delivering what Shetland does in terms of tonnage, but it's critical and it is facing challenges around spatial mass and recruitment. And I associate myself with the remarks of my right honourable friend, the member for Orkney and Shetland, in relation to how this fund is going to be distributed. But can I query the Minister in relation to the 12-year span of this plan? Now, obviously, it's linked to the EU agreement, but what guarantees can the Minister actually give us that this fund will last for those 12 years, because otherwise what is proposed becomes even meagre?
Well, no Parliament can bind its successor, but it's not usual for funds that have been announced in this way to be suddenly ended at the beginning of the next Parliament, and certainly we want to ensure that we put in place plans that are so useful and effective that no subsequent government would even think of cutting the fund. It would be in half.
O'Hara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable friend for securing this urgent question. Mr. Speaker, the aggregated coastline of my Argyll, Bute and South Lochaber constituency is greater than that of France, and therefore the fishing industry plays an absolutely crucial part in its economic well-being. And having barely survived the disaster of Brexit, this latest decision by the UK Government is another kick in the teeth to those fishing communities. We are all agreed that this formula is fundamentally unfair. So can I ask the Minister, did the Secretary of State for Scotland at any point come to her department and specifically urge her to reverse this decision? Yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, following Brexit, since leaving the EU as part of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the UK received an uplift in fishing quota. 65% of that went to Scotland, and on 2024 figures, that was worth £107 million. So I think Scotland's got a reasonable deal, and remember that uplifting quota, actually, that uplifting quota, which creates real income, actually is locked in going forwards.
Right.